Well, guys, as most everyone predicted, last Oscar Sunday did not go very well for our friend, Mr. Timothée Chalamet.
Timothee.
Yes, it was quite the dour evening, and actually, for those of us who were paying attention and looking for particular things, you might have noticed that it actually probably went worse than what anybody expected, especially him. So what were those things that we were picking up on that just seemed a little off? Well, that's what we're going to talk about here. Welcome back to Justice for All.
And the Oscar goes to Michael B. Jordan.
This is the first Oscar win and nomination for Michael B. Jordan.
And there it is, folks. All of young Timothée's dreams, the last 2 years of all of his hustle and bustle and Marty Supreme overindulgence hard work, all the fantasies of the little golden statue dying right before his very eyes. And this is the culmination of an entire evening of verbal assault and brutality against Mr. Chalamet. So what exactly happened that led up to this moment? Well, I've already made another 40-plus minute video on all of the controversy and, Opera Gate or whatever people want to call it with young Timothée leading up to this night. And so, by all means, if you want to go check that out, it's on the page. Go check it out. Let me know. Drop a comment, see what you think, if you're still into it. But for this, we're going to focus on specifically Oscar Sunday, because this was a different beast altogether. And let's talk about why. Now, in order to have an understanding of what we're going to be talking about, we have to look at the Valley of Death that this arena of the Oscars actually is. What is the Academy Awards? What does it represent? Well, this is literally the Super Bowl of the film world of Hollywood. Hollywood's Super Bowl. Just like the NFL, it's the NBA championships. It's the World Cup. It's whatever prestigious award you can think for any industry, that's what's going on here. We all know that. But what's the difference in this that makes this the most prestigious? Well, it is the gathering of what would be thought of as the Hollywood elite, right? At these different award shows, whether it's the Golden Globes, SAG Awards, especially, the Indie Awards that are in Santa Monica, sometimes they're on the beach, sometimes they're in a hangar. All of these other award shows, they're very fun, they're very festive, and they're pretty lax. I mean, people are still dressed up, they're dressed to the nines, wearing these different designers, all of that, but there's a very laid back, chill, fun kind of vibe to it. And everybody knows that the Oscars, it doesn't have that. Yeah, they come out and have the comedian and do the monologue and, la-di-da, and they make it entertaining. But everyone knows, this is work. You're clocking in. It's a whole weekend affair that you're preparing. And before that, the campaigns and all of the work that has gone into it on the award stretch all the way from November up through February and March the following year. People are on the campaign trail, and they're going hard. And it's all coming to a head this one night. That is put on by the Academy of the Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, which is basically Hollywood elite coded, right? So this is the gathering. Not only are the elite putting on this production, but the elite of the past year and winners from previous years and their plus ones and their dates and the whole cast and some of the crew members from the films that are nominated, they're all there in their finest black tie affair, right? So this is the creme de la creme. It's important to understand that before we go into what actually happened. Now, many eyes were on young Timothée going into it because of all of the backlash and everything that happened. So he goes in, he's in an all-white Kylie Jenner on his arm. They both are looking as they do. A lot of people know that something is coming down the pike for him. So he's got some eyes on him, understandably. And so Conan opens up with his monologue, and he goes on, and he takes his first little jab, talking about the security because of the socio-political nature of what's happening in the Middle East. and of course how that affects public events here in America during this time. And he makes a comment that, yeah, we're getting threats from the opera and the ballet communities, blah, blah, blah. It's cute, not very funny, and very light, right? It's like, okay, not too bad. If that's all he's going to get, he gets off easy. But it wasn't. That was just the beginning. Because then later, a very significant thing happens, which is Misty Copeland, one of the most famous ballerinas in the world, comes out of total hip replacement surgery, mind you, and dances in the musical number from the film Sinners. Now, this is an entire, old-timey type production where that type of performance art, it doesn't necessarily fit. They kind of made it fit, but that's just it. It's like, this has already been thought of and planned and workshopped and rehearsed for days and weeks up until this point. And I find it hard to believe that Misty Copeland was part of this that entire time of rehearsals. And I highly doubt that she was. Which means that the Academy has reached out to her and asked her to come on stage and be a part of this number and sneak in and do the little thing where she comes out from the back, right to center stage, right where Timothée is sitting, and do her twirls, and then float away. But why is this significant? Well, it's significant because she, of course, is representative of the ballet community. Not only that, she came out and directly and distinctly spoke against Chalamet's comments. It's made even more embarrassing that in those comments, she called him out for him and the whole Marty Supreme team reaching out to her, asking her for a personal favor to wear their hideous jackets in that whole publicity run that they did. They reached out, Timothée, to her and asked her to do this solid, which she did. She wore it just like all the other people we reached out to. Tom Brady, the Kardashians, of course. There's a whole list of all of these, A-level celebrities that were sporting this gear all through the holiday season. And she was one of them. And then he turns around and makes this comment about her art and her passion. And she was none too happy about it, understandably. And later, one of the artists who was up on stage accepting an award also takes a little swipe at him by saying that, yeah, ballet and opera are part of the arts that are going to come together to help the world in this creative way that it desperately needs now. And right about that time, it starts to get a little ooh, okay, this is they're gonna keep at him. This isn't an accident. And that's when it becomes clear that what we are witnessing is not just an Oscar ceremony, but it is also a humiliation ritual. And yes, these things happen all the time. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Hollywood, humiliation ritual. You're thinking immediate, conspiracy theorist and the Hollywood elite and the cabal and Satanists and sacrificing people and all of this. But don't worry, I'm not going to fly off the handle and go full conspiracy theorist on you here. Yet. But what I am going to do is talk about humiliation rituals psychologically, what they are, how they happen in society, what they accomplish, what they're meant to accomplish, and why groups of people, use them on individuals or other groups of people. So let's think about this in terms of the psyche. What are we actually talking about here? Why do people employ humiliation rituals to begin with? Well, humiliation is one of the most intense emotional experiences that a human can have. Why is this? It directly targets identity, your self-esteem, your self-worth, and your social belonging. Things that make human beings feel at home in who they are and who they know. So from a psychological standpoint, this activates shame, deep shame, a sense of powerlessness, a loss of status, and a loss of power if there was power that came along with that status. And so in, what we call social identity theory, our sense of self is deeply shaped by how others see us. And what we have picked up from Timothée leading up to all of this, and him in this pursuit of greatness, well, what do you mean pursuit of greatness? This isn't a sport. There aren't numbers that you're putting up. This is an art form. Who are you trying to be great to? Do you think that you're great? Clearly you do. Is that not enough? Who is it that you're trying to earn this title of greatness from? Well, it's those elite that hold the gold statues and give them out. And it's those very people in that room. But it's also the very people who would give up 4 hours of their Sunday night to tune in to a program where a bunch of rich, famous people self-congratulate over and over again for 5 hours. I'm not hating. I watched it too. Just saying. Why the Oscars? Why do this publicly? He's already received all of this backlash online. Isn't the verbal lashings of the interwebs and the general population of the internet, isn't that enough? Well, no. Why? Because that's the public. Those are the people. That's its own thing. No. It has to come from the establishment, right? The Hollywood elite is its own club. It's its own establishment. And yes, they gatekeep very seriously. And Timothée has, of course, been trying to social climb into that elite upper echelon since really day one. And that's the problem. Of course, that club, those elite, they know that. And when he was a young and up and coming and starring in, a lot of independent art house type stuff, and then he started getting, these bigger projects, they were rooting for him. But somewhere along the way, things slipped off track. And yeah, the general public noticed, but not before the elites noticed. And so, if you remember, he was up for A Complete Unknown for playing Bob Dylan last year. How many awards did that film win? Did he take home Best Actor award? No, he did not. Why is the elite choosing their black tie Super Bowl event of the year affair to do this? Why humiliation? Why is it used socially? Well, this deep humiliation, it shows up in these very real, very popular, lot of people around, highly observable environments. Think, fraternities and hazing, they use it. Military training, a lot of elite institutions. Why? Because it can function as a few different things. One, a display of dominance. We have power over you. And of course, another, a loyalty test. Are you going to endure this enough to belong? So right there, you have the smacking down. When a young actor, and it can be an actress as well, but in this case we're talking about male actors, young male actor starts to get full of himself, starts to think highly and projecting that outwards, starts to predict his own winning of their award, and starts getting a little big for the pants. They don't like that. No. Because they are the ones on top. Not you individually, it's them as the collective. And they don't want anyone in particular showing that much ego and thinking that they are at a status that has not been given by the elite club itself. And they have not given that. Only Timothée has given himself that title. And so this is a way of saying, no, young man, slapping of the wrist. We didn't say you could jump up here. You take a couple of steps back down. In fact, why don't you go take a time out for a couple of years and think about what you've done. Think about what you've said. And then maybe we'll consider having you back. Wait and see. Wait and see what happens here in the next couple of years. So, right, it's a power play. It's a dominance. But it's also a loyalty test. They're not going to throw him out. No. He's too valuable for them. They'll still put him in movies. He can still draw some names. He's not as valuable as he was, let's say, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, and especially 2 years ago. But he will be. Dune 3 is coming out at the end of this year. He's not going anywhere. He'll come back. These are just some slaps. Because they want to get him in line. What does that look like? Well, remember in the last video when we talked about his mentor, the guy he's always talked about as far as emulating and coming up, the guy who actually gives him advice? Leo, right? Look at Leo. As I pointed out in that video, Leo minds his P's and Q's on everything. And what did we see at the Oscars? Oh, he's the meme king. Oh, yeah, hey, meme king, do something, dance for us. And he turns around and just gives a smile. Got the stash. And he's cool Leo. He doesn't really dance for them, but he's still so damn charismatic that it ends up being a memeable moment in and of itself because he has that. Chalamet doesn't have that. That's one thing. So Leo is sitting there. He's got his very young girlfriend on one side of him and the breakout star of the year on the other side of him. And then they throw the general, monologue Leo making fun of, his way. And then later on in the bridesmaids, return, Rose Byrne ends up throwing that little joke at him, staring at you all night, blah, blah, blah. And of course the camera goes out to him, and this is his moment that he can play into that for a big laugh and what does he do? No. He smiles, and acknowledges, and he does one of these. But he keeps it in. He minds his P's and Q's. He doesn't dare do anything in the black tie at the affair with the cameras that he knows could be construed as stepping out of line. That's because this man has already been through his humiliation ritual. Now, some of you may not remember it, but back in the day, he does Romeo and Juliet, comes out in 96, they made it in 95, goes straight into Titanic. Titanic comes out in 97, blows up, the biggest film that's been out in years. And it leads to something called Leo Mania, blast off into the stratosphere. I mean, this guy, it looked like Michael Jackson and Tom Cruise. He's getting out of cars and he's just absolutely swarmed by people. It's insanity. So much so that he takes time away from the public eye and away from making movies. But during that time, he continues to do what he had been doing up to that point, which is going around with his entourage like they did in the show. And he's going out, he's partying, he's drinking. He's dubbed the Prince of the Party Scene of New York. And his whole team, it's actually his entourage, they are actually dubbed by a journalist. Well, I can't say it on here, but the P Posse. You get it, I think. The P Posse, which, of course, they deny, but they were called that for a reason, right? The young, hard-partying, womanizing, early 20s, super famous, the whole entourage thing, right? They made the show after Leo and Mark Wahlberg. And so he's doing that. Until the elite and the ones in charge, they notice, because now he's got a lot of bad press coming in. There's rumors of fights. There's a whole thing with Elizabeth Berkley, and they're like threatening the guy that she's... It's a whole mess. And they're going out. There's pictures of them coming out in the tabloids doing crazy things. It was getting bad, and they were starting to take verbal lashings. And Leo was developing that reputation of young, reckless, wild, going the wayward path that a lot of these young, ego-driven actors have gone. But Leo does have an enormous talent, and he looks a certain way, and he just happens to be passionate enough about the art and the craft that some very important people step into that situation, and they say, hey, you gotta cut it, you gotta straighten up. This isn't gonna fly. Why do you think he didn't get an Oscar until 2015, 2016 for The Revenant? It was the whole joke, like, oh, are they ever gonna give it? No, they could have given it to him. He had nominations. He gave plenty of good performances, but he wasn't up to their standard of character in what a movie star and a member of the elite looks like and conducts himself as. That's important to them. Remember, all of this is part of the show. Now, if you haven't seen it, I made another video concerning the whole Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, and what the show is and what I pointed out in that. And I would love for you to go watch it and check it out. Let me know what you think. But essentially, this is it, right? It's all about the show. It's not Timothée business. It's not Leo business. It's show business. And you never, ever, ever disrespect the show. And that's what people do when they step out of line. Leo, you're getting a reputation. Party boy, wisecracker, jerk, womanizer. This is not elite status. You better shape up or you're going to get shipped out. You're acting up. You're stepping out. It's a whole lot of ego for some accolades that you have not received yet. You better shape up. And, yeah, that girl you're with, there's a reason the whole rest of her family has been doing this for a long time and not made it up there. Now, am I saying that personally? No. I don't care who he dates. I'm not about to sit here as a man and blame a woman for this man's behavior. I'm not doing that. I have nothing against her or her family. I wish them nothing but the best. I don't know her. But I'm saying don't be surprised if the PR crisis isn't flooding in right now and having to sit down with him being like, all right, bro, say your goodbyes, have your last whatever. Gotta go. That's it. All this, you going out, running the mouth, we're turning that around right now. And that's what's going to happen. He's going to have to take a couple of steps back down. He's going to have to pay some penance. He's going to have to pay some prices in some different ways. I made a little quip at the end of my other video about things that he could do, and the reason I made that quip, it was a joke in there, but the reason I made it is wait and see what happens and him stepping out and doing things. And don't be surprised if some of those things is going back to some of these smaller movies, right? Humiliation rituals are real. People use them. There's a reason why. And the other reason is ego breakdown. And that's one of the things that we're seeing here. Too much ego, too much flying high. Your identity has to be reshaped. Just like Leo's, you got a little out of control. You got a little full of yourself. You're spinning out of control, and we need you to rein it in. Same thing here. They're not kicking him out. They're saying, this is your warning. And the way they did it, the way that we know, was when they brought out, what did they call it? The bum drum. The bum drum. That's when we knew that this was for sure a humiliation ritual. Because one, that joke was not even funny, right? You got some guy from the orchestra and standing up, ping pong paddle on the backside. It's not that funny. But they didn't do it to be funny. It wasn't a joke. That was a warning. That was a symbol. It was a sign from the elites, from the academy, to Timothée Chalamet. Hey, this is us giving you your spanking. Right here on the bottom. Why do they choose that? It's a weird thing, right? No, not at all. Not when you've seen the movie. What's happening in that movie during that scene? Kevin O'Leary. Who is Kevin O'Leary? Just another actor? No, he's not an actor. What is he? He's an uber conservative, extremely rich, known to be an a-hole on Shark Tank. He's a shark. And Softy cast him in the role even though he's not, because he wanted an a-hole that was known as rich, conservative, from a representative of the establishment, which he is. And he's the one that Marty needs in order to take the segue to make his big dream come true. But guess what? It comes at a price. And that price is, I'm going to humiliate you. Pants down and paddle you. It's a humiliation ritual in the movie. In order for the very guy to get to the dreams that he wants to get. And he has to pull his pants down. And he has to take it on the bum drum, as it be. What do you think they were doing with this completely unfunny joke? Who is this guy in the orchestra? What does that have to do with it? It has to do with them letting know, hey, remember that scene in that movie where you wouldn't let the double play the part and you played it? Yeah. You're not getting out of this. And we're going to whip you. And you're going to fall in line until we say you can come back and be a part of our club. And you're going to do it because you're a slave to your ego. Because you already told us the secret. You already told us that you were after greatness. And a man who seeks his greatness from out in the world and the false accolades of a place like Hollywood instead of the genius and the brilliance of the humility of his own character is going to fall every time. It's psychological. It's spiritual. It's consciousness. Because right now, that young man is at a crossroads. And he's going to have to make a decision. And the decision that he makes at this crossroads is going to determine not only the rest of his life, but who he becomes in the rest of that life and what that is going to look like. And there's a few different options on the table. And the Hollywood elite, they're going to want one very specific option. And we can see that. Mr. DiCaprio is a product. What happened at the end of the Oscars? Timothée went to the Vanity Fair with this girl, did an Irish exit, went home. What did the cameras catch on the stage in the room after the ceremony? Leonardo DiCaprio hugging a crying Michael B. Jordan as Michael B. Jordan clutched the award. Benicio comes up. The heroes, they grasp the new member. And it's not the kid they were saying was following in DiCaprio's footsteps. Could it have been? We'll never know. But what we know is, it's not. Could you imagine, after going through a full evening of having all of the people in the same room and across the world, through television, through internet, TV, all of those people collectively laughing at you and mocking at you, and then you go home and you flip on the computer or TV the next morning and you see your friend and mentor is just arm in arm embracing the guy that beat you in the award that you busted your grind for 2 years. Stings. That's the kind of thing that propels an ego death into an unraveling, into the descent. And it might happen here. I mean, that's rough. That's like getting a breakup text from your partner, and then the next night you go to a bar or a club and see them in the corner hugged up with some other person that's better looking than you, right? It's rough. It's going to hurt. It's going to sting. That's what it takes. That's what it takes to break that large of an ego. Because that ego doesn't want to go anywhere. It wants to keep clawing its way to the top until it gets to some imaginary throne that it's set up for itself. That's not even really there. Because look, the upper echelon, they can pull out a bum drum on you at any time. And if you place your value, your importance on bosses, on jobs, on people, on status, power, and greed, if you place your inherent self-worth in what greatness is to you onto a bunch of people that you probably don't even like, well, I can tell you from firsthand experience, there's a lot of ego in that industry, but there's not a lot of joy, sadly. Because joy can only come from your heart and soul. And that's what's missing. Not from everyone in every project. And no, there is a lot of heart and soul. There's a lot of beautiful people there. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just saying, when you're talking about these upper echelon games that are being played, you're talking about a lot of dirtiness. And it's one of the reasons I'm making this video is humiliation, power moves, power dynamics, manipulation and deception, and this is corporate America, right? This is the Hill. This is DC. Look at what's going on in our country. Look at what's going on overseas. Look at what's going on our streets. From California to DC to New York to Minneapolis. The ego is out in full force. And that means all of us have decisions to make. In a way, 2020, up until now, has been America's humiliation journey. And, like Chalamet, we dug that path ourselves. But it's not too late. Because that's the thing they don't talk about. For the individual, the humiliation ritual is not just a devastation. It's meant to be an initiation. Right? That's the fall and descent where you break apart and you find out who you really are. And you rebuild on a foundation of your heart, of your soul, of your inherent worth and character that isn't rested upon the false laurels of some society or some group of people that gets to say whether you're good enough or not to be a part of their club. Let them have their club. And people will go through this, and they'll join and they'll belong, and there's nothing wrong with that. This is far from the only ritual that's happened in Hollywood. Like I said, it happened to Leo. It happened to Robert Pattinson. Remember? Twilight, craziness. He couldn't stand it. He wanted to quit acting, went away for a while, started making smaller films, getting back to his roots, his passion. Colin Farrell, same thing. Busted out, and he had all the things. He was an addict, was wasted out of his mind on Miami Vice, and had a sex tape. Ended up in rehab. But he has heart and soul and talent. And he came back, made smaller projects, made in Bruges. And now he's doing top-notch work and incredible talent. There's a pattern to this. We know this. We can study it, right? There's the ego inflation, the rise, often in adolescence and through the 20s. Then comes the humiliation, oftentimes in public, not always, oftentimes at the hands of a corporate entity, an elite status, perhaps in the military, politics, different areas, life, or maybe it's just life itself that just beats you down and humiliates you with its everyday sufferings. Whatever it is, it comes in to that inflated ego, identity crisis, it all falls apart. And then you have the choice. I can double down and rebuild the ego. Or I can take a pause, reflect, go in deeper, and go down into the depths of who you really are and start constructing an authentic identity and not concern yourself with trying to be the person that you think they want you to be. Because I guarantee, go visit some people on their deathbeds in a cancer ward, in hospitals, at nursing homes, and they will all tell you, I should have spent more time being my authentic self than trying to be this person that I thought all of these other people wanted me to be. Look at Leo. He came back from this, met Martin Scorsese, one of the greatest living directorial artists, filmmakers in the history of cinema. He's on set working with him right now on their, 7th collaboration. Leo came back as a serious artist and a grown, real man with something to say. he's not just playing their game. He plays their game when he has to. He benefits from it, and he gets to live the life that he wants, not the life that they want him to live. That's speculation. I don't know the man. But he drops clues. Maybe some other time we'll talk about that. But for now, Humiliation is horrendous. But it is always meant to bring you to a place where you have a choice, where you get to choose your authentic self or the illusion of ego. You get to choose love or fear. And I hope you make the right choice. I hope I make the right choice. Thank you for being here. Sorry this ran a little long. I get a little long-winded sometimes. But I'll leave a couple of links to check out those other things I mentioned. But in the meantime, take care of yourself. If you have any questions over any of this stuff, hit me up. Let me know. Or if you want me to cover specific topics, let me know. I appreciate you being here. Stay tuned. Lots more to come. I wish you well. Take care of yourselves and each other. Till next time.